Okay, up first tonight, a very exciting presentation by the Springside Committee. I know I was able to see a little glimpse of this project, and it's really exciting, and I congratulate everyone on the committee, but I'll let them speak for themselves. I think they're all on this call tonight, actually.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor. The Springside Action Committee evolved a couple of years ago from a conversation and a walk through the property with Highbridge residents Michael Grodsky, president of the Union Forge Heritage Association, and Gail Marr, chair of the Hunterdon County Cultural and Heritage Commission. Gail helped us in drafting our mission, and together with their extensive historical expertise and Michael's architectural background, our mission took flight. The committee is excited to share with you this evening a video generously put together and gifted to us by Highbridge resident Greg Lindgren, and a slide presentation will follow the video. Please note that with reorganization of the historical committee, historical research of this property has recurred and new information has been discovered and given to the Springside Committee since the production of the video. New information regarding the Apgar family and their ownership of the land will be updated in a future presentation. Thank you. We can go on with the video.
Okay, bring it up here. There.
The Springside Action Committee welcomes you to Springside Farm in historic Highbridge, New Jersey. This isolated and nearly forgotten historic farmstead is located on Springside Lane and straddles the border of neighboring Clinton Township at the eastern portion of the borough limits. Springside Farm is comprised of 90 acres of some of the most beautiful and picturesque acres in Highbridge. County historian Stephanie Stevens once called Springside Farm the most historically significant Germanic farmstead in all of Hunterdon County. Historic maps of the borough from the mid-18th century graphically illustrate a house located on the current site of Springside Farm and owned by the Apgar family, and near a house owned by a Lance that was over the rise towards Cokesbury. Both the Apgar and Lance families were Palatine Germans, like the Vaughts, which may explain why Springside Farmhouse and the historic Vaught House in Clinton Township are very similar in size and construction. However, history also records that the main house was constructed sometime in the mid-1700s by Archibald Taylor on the Old Road, now known as Nassau Road. Archibald was the son of Robert Taylor, who emigrated from Ireland in the 1750s. More research is needed to determine who constructed the stone house, although we are certain that Archibald did occupy Springside in the late 18th century. Starting with Robert Taylor, 5 generations of the Taylor family would come to operate and manage the nearby Taylor Iron and Steel Company in Highbridge, which eventually became Taylor Wharton Iron and Steel Company. During this time in history, Springside was an agricultural use farm with fruit and vegetable fields, orchards, and possibly oxen and cattle. Produce grown on site was sold to the Taylor Iron and Steel Company, and oxen raised at the farm were also used at the ironworks. In the late 19th and early 20th century, Springside was owned by Knox Taylor, descendant of Robert Taylor and president of the Taylor Iron and Steel Company, along with his wife Lucy. During this time in history, the farm was expanded with an addition made to the main house, the construction of a horse barn, a dairy barn, and a trademark spring house and pond. The farm also sponsored the Zellman family, who were immigrants from Germany and who came to live and work on the farm. The last major use of the property was a dairy farm, one of 3 dairy farms in the borough, and also a horse farm. Lucy Taylor is also known to have raised a prize thoroughbred horse on the farm. In 1950, after nearly 200 years of being in the Taylor family, the farm was sold by Lucy Taylor and transferred into other private hands for the next 50 years. In the late 1990s, the borough began talks with the owners of Springside to purchase the farm and make it a permanent open space. After years of negotiations, Springside was jointly purchased in 2002 between Highbridge Borough and Clinton Township, with funding through Green Acres and grants through the County Cultural and Heritage Commission. 29.7 of the total acres are now owned by Highbridge and include all of the historic structures of the farmstead. At the time of purchase, the main farmhouse was rented and occupied, and several of the farm structures were leased out for horse boarding. Although the property was preserved, the historic structures remained vacant since its purchase, with no adaptive reuse or preservation efforts implemented. For the next 18 years, the farm became desolate and virtually forgotten, with all the structures suffering years of neglect. The historic main house tragically suffering substantial damage from a leaking roof and broken windows. The once intact interior started to crumble and decay. The farm became derelict because of a lack of an overall sustainable plan and vision. All that changed in 2020. Undeterred by the daunting tasks that lie ahead, Councilwoman Natalie Ferry and Michael Gronsky, who is an architect and president of the local history-based nonprofit organization, the Union Forge Heritage Association, as well as Springside committee members, Mia Baldwin from the Highbridge Environmental Committee and environmental interpreter, and Lynn Copeland, community garden planner and class instructor. This team saw the value in saving Springside Farm and began the process of preparing a systemic stabilization and adaptive reuse plan for the property. The agricultural buildings of the property include the carriage barn, horse barn, dairy barn, and the ruins of the general barn structure. The carriage barn is the second oldest structure on site, dating to the late 18th century, and is bank structure built of local stone, heavy rough-cut tree trunks, and hewn timbers. The siding is both plank and clapboard, and the roofing is tin. The wagon house exemplifies the early example of the property's 18th, 19th, and 20th century agricultural use. The structure is in remarkably stable condition, but in need of siding and roof repairs. The adaptive reuse of this structure would be to display historic agricultural farm equipment, such as wagons and other items. The horse barn is the third oldest structure on site and dates to the late 19th century. The framing timbers are sawn lumber rather than hand-hewn and includes gable roof ends with shake siding suggesting the early Victorian themes. The foundation is stone and the second story used as a hayloft. The structure is in relatively stable condition, but in need of immediate roofing repairs to address recent tin roof damage. The structure is connected to the general barn foundation and forms the westerly side of the barnyard. As the structure is newer in comparison to the oldest site structures, its reuse could be linked to the proposed environmental uses of the site. The general barn structure has been reduced to the stone foundation, with all the massive upper-level oak timbers collapsed and deteriorated beyond salvage. The structure dates to the mid-19th century and is a stone bank foundation that is in stable condition. Old photographs show the barn was over 2 stories in height and likely a hay barn. As the reconstruction of this barn is beyond reasonable scope, the idea is to cap the stone foundation walls and leave it as a ruin and a testament to the progression of buildings on site. The newest and last structure to be built is the massive dairy barn, built in the 1920s. The structure is gambrel roof built of dimensional lumber and first floor stone walls. This structure is connected to the general barn to the west and serves as the eastern leg of the U-shaped barnyard. Although not specifically historic, the dairy barn tells an important story of the evolutionary history of the property to a predominantly dairy industry. Due to neglect, the structure is in varying states of decay, and without immediate remediation, deteriorate beyond any reasonable repair. This structure would be ideally used for large gatherings for on-site events. The focal point structures of the site are the main house and the spring house. The main house dates to the mid-18th century and is of stone and hand-hewn timbers. The house is a bank house with a front facade facing south with two main living levels and a sizable attic. The past 10 years has not been kind to this 270-year-old structure. Neglect has allowed the roof to deteriorate to the point of severe decay and roof openings allowing the elements to infiltrate the structure, causing serious finish and some structural damage to the southern side of the structure. The unaffected sections of the house are still intact, with original plaster, wide plank flooring, wainscoting, recessed decorative wall panels, and a massive walk-in cook fireplace that is in stable condition and very restorable. An addition to the house was made sometime in the early 19th century, which is also in a state of deterioration. The adjacent spring house was constructed in the late 19th century and is stable with a new roof construction. The restored main house would become the welcoming center to the property and the focal point of the property and the borough's agricultural history. The expansive property itself is envisioned to become an environmentally inclusive area with pollinator meadows, orchards, community gardens, and an environmental learning center. Phase 1 of the Springside Action Plan includes stabilization of the main house, site structure inventory with detailed drawings, and the development of a full action plan to assist in fundraising activities. Phase 1 has already been implemented with the tarping of the main house roof. Although a temporary measure, this will ensure the house does not suffer any further water damage in the short term until funding can be secured for a new roof. Costs will be substantial because roofing finishes as well as some structural reframing will be required. The committee's goals are ambitious, but our volunteer base has started strong and is growing. The committee is currently seeking donations and in-kind donations for the main house roof replacement and for on-site debris removal. If you would like to volunteer or donate to this project, you can send a check made out to the Highbridge Borough Springside Committee, and please address the envelope as follows. Attention, Councilwoman Natalie Ferry, Highbridge Borough, 97 West Main Street, Highbridge, New Jersey, 08829. To make a donation online, go to the Highbridge website at highbridge.org, scroll down to the Pay Online box, then click the Register or Sponsor Annual Event link. At the Select Payment Item pull-down, select number 2, Donation, Springside Farm. Then fill in your name, your donation amount, and all the additional data requested below, and then click Add Item. If you have any questions, please email Michael Gronsky at springsidecommittee@gmail.com or Natalie Ferry at nferry@highbridge.org.
Oh, outstanding.
Very nice. Very nice.
Great job.
Very well done.
Now, we do have, the committee has a slide, a quick slide presentation just to go over a couple things and answer any questions anyone might have.
Okay, who are we gonna open
Mike,
up to?
Mike Gronsky,
Oh, okay.
and also Mia Baldwin and Lynn Copeland.
What's playing? Are you guys hearing what I'm hearing?
No.
No.
Okay. I'm sorry, the whole meeting is playing back on my screen.
Is that video available anywhere else? Where is that going to be posted or?
We're going to post it, but Adam, do you have the, are you able to share the slide?
I can't control any audio going on.
Uh-oh.
Just replaying all whole meeting's audio.
Do you have the slideshow, Natalie? Maybe you can just share your screen.
I can see if I can pull it up on this laptop. If you could just give me a minute, because I'm not at my main computer.
I'm sorry, hold on one second. I'm having some technical difficulties here. Okay. Can you now hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Do you have the slides?
I do.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
I want to get Mike Gronsky up here first so he can address us. One moment. And you said Mia as well?
Yes, and Lynn Copeland. She's on as Lynn.
And
Yeah.
And here is Mia. Okay, one moment. I'll share that screen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so we got the first slide is actually a photograph of our tarping weekend, so it's this little presentation is about our mission statement and what our goals are and what we've met so far with our goals and what our future plans are, short term and long term. Next slide, please.
All right.
Okay, so the first thing when we started forming the group, the first thing we wanted to do was obviously create a mission statement of what we want to do with the property, and we've worded it in a way that would be flexible because we knew as we progressed through the site and came up with plans and included other people in the project, the mission statement would change a bit, but we would have our main focus, which is to preserve and protect the rich history, agricultural heritage, and natural environment of Springside Farm in our borough. And next slide. Okay, and then so our goals are to stabilize and restore the site's historic structures and to develop and promote an adaptive reuse plan for the property and structures that includes an element of historic preservation, agricultural and environmental restoration, conservation components for the benefit of the borough, and to establish the site's sustainability by introducing viable elements and practices throughout the restoration process. So the Springside being one of just a few agricultural properties in the borough, that was one of the three major elements. Was we wanted to do a historic preservation element, kind of address the agricultural, and then obviously the environmental, which Mia and Lynn will be speaking about a little bit later. Okay, next slide. Okay, and so our site assessment is to expand on the phase one preservation plan And that plan was done over close to 15 years ago, and it was a phase one, which included an assessment of the site structures. And obviously, a lot has happened in the past 15 years. So we'll be doing, the goal is to update that and to also do our own assessment and architectural drawings of all the existing structures and an assessment of the current conditions. So we're going to evaluate all the structures, both in terms of structural restoration and potential status and historical significance based on our knowledge of the site and past experiences. So that part of it is currently in progress. And the committee is going to assess the grounds, natural resources in terms of viability, restoration potential, and conservation status. So also in progress. And the preparation of a comprehensive video presentation, which we just saw. And thank you to Greg and everybody that was involved with preparing that. We were donated a lot of really great old photographs of the site when it was the agricultural use and even before. And then personal stories were actually a big part of that as well. So we're always getting more information through messages on Facebook or phone calls. So it's really cool the way that we've been able to reach out to the community and get information and photographs and historical information. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we've established our priorities kind of in a triage fashion. So we have long and short-term planning. Obviously, the first one, because the site structures are so important, is emergency stabilization and securing of the structures that we have in progress with the main house in particular. We're going to review funding sources. We're going to secure the 1750s main house, roof, doors, and windows, which is basically complete. We're going to establish the main house as the headquarters of all our planning phases to be done at the property. So that's in progress. And establish a comprehensive social media platform to update the community and to get ideas and long-term planning of the site. So that's in progress, and we've had some good feedback so far, and people who want to be involved in the project. And the next slide. Okay, so it's one thing to what I've learned through my work with historic preservation. You can restore something perfectly, but if you don't have a way to sustain that or create an adaptive reuse of the property, it's unsustainable. So we have a public awareness campaign focusing on Springside as a town benefit to get the community involved, promote property as a link to the borough's forgotten agricultural past, and explore Preservation New Jersey's list of endangered sites. And that is a way to get people for us to promote the property and to get recognition throughout the site as a site that we feel and the state feels that is important to preserve. So in the borough in the past, we've had Solitude House, the Tisco office building and Lake Solitude Falls listed on PNJ's top 10 list. And we obviously want to explore the National Register nomination or have the property as part of the historic district, identify probable funding sources, and create a promotional materials and establish a broad social media presence, which we currently have in progress. Okay, and the next slide. And then the last slide we have here is a site plan of the property. It's a little bit fuzzy in this view, but it outlines all the buildings on the property and how we see the site progressing as far as community garden and the habitat conservation zone, proposed metal restoration. And then one of the things, as hopefully the project progresses, we'd have to address how we access the site because of the Springside Lane, we've been looking at that. I believe part of it is privately owned. We're not really sure how that would work out. So we're looking at the open meadow area as possibly having its own driveway and a parking area for the site. And so we're going to be looking at that potential. And then currently through the site, we have part of the Taylor Steelworkers Historic Greenway as going through the site and looping up through the wooded area. So that's a part of the site as well. And so that's what we have so far. And I think we made some pretty good progress over the past about a year or so during a pandemic. So I think we did pretty well. So that's what we have so far on our goals and missions, and I think we're in a good place to progress. Currently, our team is going to be growing, so we'll need a few more slides when we do this presentation again for council, and hopefully in the upcoming months. Okay, Natalie, I think that's all we have.
I'm sorry, Mia, is she on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Lee, Council, Highbridge neighbors and friends. My name is Mia Baldwin. Thank you for joining us and sharing Springside Farm with you tonight. I would like to talk to you about the grounds of Springside. They're home to an amazing array of habitats. There are, as Mike pointed out on the previous slide, open meadows, forest edges, and even wetland areas. And as our committee's environmental partner and the Highbridge Environmental Commission's liaison, I look forward to very soon introducing or reacquainting you with Springside through, as Mike indicated, meadow restoration projects, habitat conservation projects, and for now, hopefully, virtual interpretive programs. Soon, we'd love to get the pond cleaned out and cleared of its surrounding invasive species. We have 50 native plants arriving this spring to get our meadow restoration underway. And we hope to establish the Environmental Commission's on-site tree nursery. And once pollinator favorites establish themselves, my hope is to extend the area's existing citizen science projects into Springside. And once it's socially proper, I look forward to Springside hosting interpretive programs such as nature-based storytime and crafts for families, natural dyeing, and like basket making workshops. Springside, through its revival, will foster so many opportunities to engage residents, and I look forward to meeting and coming together with all of those interested in volunteering, lending their expertise, or just sharing their ideas for Springside. We have a survey that will be distributed, and some have already shared their visions for the area. Richard Woods, who grew up in Highbridge, not far, just yards actually from Springside, has proposed to share his land management expertise through meadow restoration on the grounds. Highbridge resident and historian Gail Mayer, who Natalie mentioned earlier, has many wonderful ideas for the farm. And our resident county leader for the Native Plant Society of New Jersey, Susan Hake, will be helping with the identification and removal of invasive species. So I hope you can join us in getting our hands dirty and in bringing community together through Springside as it connects us to our common past through its cultural places and connects us to our environment through its natural spaces. I can't wait to meet anyone out there interested. And now I'm going to introduce my neighbor, our wonderful Lynn Copeland, who is full of abilities. She's going to guide our committee and the Highbridge community in making Springside even more wonderful through her sustainability program for Springside Farm. Lynn?
Well, what a lovely introduction, Mia. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, great. So hello, Mayor, hello, Council, hello, all the other citizens of Highbridge who might be attending this evening. I did move in next door to Mia in September of 2019. I'm also the chair of the events committee, a garden planner and class instructor, and I will be working to provide a space for community strengthening on Springside Farm. with a focus on historical restoration, classes and lectures, community gardens, seasonal festivals, and designated areas for hobbyists. This will be achieved through fundraising, volunteer effort, and utilizing the space in a way that will help the property become more financially stable. In teaching Highbridge and the surrounding areas to be more self-sustaining, we will help Springside Farm sustain itself for generations to come. Alongside Mia, I will be surveying our community to see what they would like to see happen on the homestead, and I will also be working to implement those ideas. I would also like to mention here that another way to donate is to go to our Facebook page, Save Springside Farm. The Learn More button at the top of the page will take you directly to the Highbridge donation page. We'll be hosting a Highbridge trivia fundraiser in the late spring. We hope to see you all there. And I'm also helping Councilwoman Natalie, our councilperson, Natalie Ferry, spearhead a little bit more of a social media presence for Highbridge, including a Highbridge volunteers group once it's approved by council. So it's wonderful to speak with all of you this evening, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it for your committee, Natalie?
That is all. Thank you for
I
giving us
just
this
wanted to say-
opportunity.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed. I know that when one of the first tours that we took of that area, it was kind of, I want to say a little bit sad because it seemed overwhelming, but you guys are making it seem like all of this is possible and right in front of us for, more than anything, just taking advantage and beautifying the space that's already there. And I'm really impressed. So thank you for all the effort that you guys have all put into this.
Thank you.
And Mike, I've said it before, I'm thrilled to death to be working with you and the Union Forge Heritage Association to bring your expertise in to help not only with Springside, but, in other areas that we've talked about in the past. So I really appreciate it. And Greg, beautiful presentation as always. So thanks to the whole group.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.